from Chicago. It's the 1993 Radio Hall of Fame Awards, saluting radio's biggest stars on radio's biggest night, and recalling the magical moments that Americans have experienced on their journey across the radio dial.
This is KDKA.
Of the Westinghouse Electric and
Lucky Lindy, as they call
the
him.
National Barn Dance invites Silver McGee and Molly. Rochester.
Yes, boss.
Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater.
December 7th, 1941.
Benny Goodman and his orchestra. Coming to you from the Manhattan.
Gangbusters.
1, 2, 3 o'clock.
Which in Philadelphia, air conditioned for the coolest sound in town.
It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route.
I wanna hold your hand. Tonight in Los Angeles, you got the Wolfman Jack Show.
Will not be judged by the color of their skin.
This is Randall Carlisle, 2020 News.
CKLW, Jack, Super Job.
This is Rick Dees, and your uncandid phone.
Pirate Radio.
Well, we're having a tremendous aftershock right now.
You're listening to The Quiet Storm.
Are you aroused as we speak?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Don Pardo inviting you to join us for the next hour as we salute the 1993 Radio Hall of Fame inductees. Tonight, we present Rush Limbaugh, legendary pioneer Norman Corwin, National Public Radio's All Things Considered, Chicago's King of Morning Drive Time, Wally Phillips, the late Rick Sklar, Top 40 Radio's master programmer, and the 1993 Members' Choice inductee, radio historian and broadcaster Chuck Shaden. You'll also hear from Sally Jesse Raphael, ABC Radio's Tom Joyner, NPR's Susan Stamberg, Pulitzer Prize winner Studs Terkel, the great Gildersleeve, Willard Waterman, and Shirley Bell Cole, radio's Little Orphan Annie. Tonight's program is brought to you by the Illinois Bureau of Tourism. Illinois, don't miss it. And now, from the Museum of Broadcast Communications in the landmark Cultural Center on Chicago's Michigan Avenue, your host for the evening, a past inductee into the Radio Hall of Fame, the world's most recognized interviewer from Mutual Radio and CNN, Larry King.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we got to put something in Don Pardo's navel, set a rocket to it, and send him out of here. This is hyper heaven. Good evening. It's a great pleasure to be here. Great pleasure to be in this Hall of Fame. I bring you greetings from Ross Perot. He called me this morning. He asked me to extend his best to all of you, but we have to be out in a half hour. He just bought the building. And his volunteers are coming in. To the 6 going in tonight, this is a great joy. There's nothing like radio. Remember being a child and listening to Arthur Godfrey and Red Barber, and later getting the privilege of working with them. And then, of course, to be installed in a Hall of Fame, to feel like a legend at a still young age. There's nothing like it. I've been in a few Hall of Fames, but this one is very special because this is radio and this is like a first child. You can do a lot of things in life, and I've been very lucky. But there's no luck like the luck of being in the Radio Hall of Fame. And luck plays a part in it. We're certainly glad to have you here in this great city. And I think if you're visiting Chicago, please come see us at this museum. By the way, what a week I've had. I have had an incredible week. I mean, when you think about it, I've been with Michael Jordan, and then Lee Iacocca, and then Margaret Thatcher, and then down to Fort Campbell for Warrant Officer Michael Durant, and then Michael Keaton, last night Mikhail Gorbachev, and tonight Rush Limbaugh, only in America. The Radio Hall of Fame was founded by the Emerson Radio Corporation in 1988, and the Radio Hall of Fame moved to the Museum of Broadcast Communications in 91. We are broadcasting from its home, by the way, the Chicago Cultural Center on Michigan Avenue. Some previous inductees into this hall include Jack Benny, Edgar Bergen, the Goldbergs, Paul Harvey, who's here with us tonight, CBS Mystery Theater, Charles Osgood, one of the best. Little Orphan Annie, she's also here. Cousin Brucey Morrow, Fred Allen. Last year's inductees include Don Amici and Leonard Goldenson, Casey Kasem. WJR Detroit's J.P. McCarthy, one of the great broadcast personalities of all time, and the Grand Ole Opry. Each spring, the Radio Hall of Fame sends about 1,000 ballots to radio executives, state association directors, and broadcast historians. The nominations are sent to Checkers, Simon & Rosner, nationally known CPA firm here in Chicago. The ballots are tabulated, certified, ratified by the Executive Committee of the Radio Hall of Fame, which is also comprised, by the way, of radio leaders coast to coast. 5 winners are selected in these categories: syndicated or network personality, local or regional personality, pioneer program, and the Emerson Award, given to a person living or deceased who has made significant contributions to radio, technology, management, or production. The 6th inductee, selected by nationwide membership of the Radio Hall of Fame Museum, ensures public participation in the selection process. The process, by the way, is for and about people who love radio. Our first induction tonight, to induct our first member of the Hall of Fame going in tonight, is a wonderful lady and a great talent. She's on National Public Radio. She wrote a great book called Talk. She knows her way around this business, and what a perfect person to bring this category into the Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, from National Public Radio, the terrific Susan Stamberg, right here.
Our names in that Don Pardo voice, it's to die. The program award is presented to a local network or syndicated program of any length that has distinguished itself through excellence or popularity. The two are not necessarily mutually exclusive. In 1971, when we put All Things Considered on the air, we couldn't have imagined having 12 million listeners or winning every major award in broadcasting, but it happened. And now, tonight, after nearly a quarter of a century in what we trust is not a rush to judgment, All Things Considered, National Public Radio's very first program, becomes the first public radio program to be inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame. A singular honor for a broadcast that tries to offer listeners the most balanced, informative, intelligent electronic news and information available anywhere. Tonight's induction says that 7 days a week, to millions of radio listeners, All Things Considered is a valued link to the world in which we live.
In Albuquerque, this is Noah Adams.
I'm Linda Wertheimer in Chicago.
And I'm Robert Siegel in Washington, with All Things Considered.
A question to Milka Berian from Sarajevo. What happened?
I had 2 houses, and the Muslims came and destroyed them completely, and I have nothing else. I have nothing.
Gulf has started. We have this bulletin from the Associated Press. The U.S. military in central Saudi Arabia has announced that war with Iraq has begun. Now to the White House and briefing with Martin.
Welcome home. Welcome home.
Finally, the moment arrived that they'd all been waiting for. Nelson Mandela ascended a podium, sat high on a platform, and talked to them.
Motivated hangings
persists. Arthur Fletcher, chairman of the U.S. Civil Rights Commission, says, quote, "It looks like the Klan has taken off the sheet and put on the badge." Last week, a self-appointed group of civil rights activists held hearings on the subject at the state capitol.
We give it a try, Jill asked. Now, I am from Chicago. I know what a Chicago hot dog is. It bears only the most general resemblance to the New York street frame.
Summer.
The sphere of influence.
And modern young men contemplate modern young women and still find them completely mystifying.
Women can make you feel like, I want my bottle, I want my...
That's a little white pig with pink ears, snuffling with her snout deep in the pebbly soil in an oak forest near Cahors. She's following the strange, powerful scent of truffles.
He heard the whole thing.
You heard the whole thing, and throughout this tourists on the menu segment of the Jaws music, he plays with the theme.
That's what they do most of the time. They
Is
have
that legal, by the way?
Yeah, it is. They have some extra studio time, and they fill in these gaps by inviting people off the street, regular people like you and I.
Like you and you, yes.
Like
You're alone in this one.
Like the commercial said.
You're going to sing again for us?
Yep. We'll hear some.
Terrible. It's a good thing you didn't get to hear Noah Adams sing Take It to the Limit. Ladies and gentlemen, the Radio Hall of Fame inducts All Things Considered.
Accepting for All Things Considered, program host Robert Siegel and Linda Wertheimer.
Because Susan is the voice that so many people for so many years associate with All Things Considered. She helped us make the program what it is, and her stamp is very much still on it.
And there are others whose stamp is on it every day. Ellen Weiss, our executive producer, Melissa, Linda, Sullivan, Art Silverman, Marika, and all of you, thank you very much for putting this program on all the time, and above all, thank you, Bill Siemering, a certified genius according to the MacArthur Foundation, for thinking up this program in the first place. Bye-bye. Thanks.
We're live from Chicago with the 1993 Radio Hall of Fame Awards. Coming up, Rush Limbaugh, Tom Joyner, Wally Phillips, Studs Terkel, Sally Jesse Raphael, and more from Larry King. So stay with us.
Not long ago, our world was changed forever by Voices from the Skies.
The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
Brought to you through the wonder of radio. And you can still hear them at the Radio Hall of Fame, preserving the history of excellence in radio and keeping quality radio growing. Please become a member of the Radio Hall of Fame and preserve the radio industry's future. Members vote to recognize excellence in contemporary radio in the Radio Hall of Fame Awards. And who knows?
The shadow knows.
Your vote could help your favorite radio personality into the Radio Hall of Fame. This is Larry King asking you to please become a member by calling 1-800-860-9559. That's 1-800-860-9559. Don't let the voices be lost forever.
Just when the air begins to turn frosty and darkness comes a little sooner every evening, the holiday season arrives in a city called Chicago. This time of year, the pace isn't set so much by the rushing of feet into gleaming office towers, but by the sound of horses walking on a street that, if we're lucky, has a fresh coat of glistening snow. It's a time when children sit on shoulders trying to get a glimpse of the window displays on State Street. Couples get reacquainted as they stroll past the stores lining Michigan Avenue, lights glowing on the trees above. In Chicago, we embrace the change of seasons. The colder it gets, the warmer we all seem to feel. No wonder more than 10 million people choose to visit Chicago every winter. Chicago. It's easy to do.
We're back. We're back at the Radio Hall of Fame dinner. We're being broadcast on 95 stations around the country. We thank them all for joining us. This is going to be an even bigger event next year. They're going to move to larger quarters. The Radio Hall of Fame offers the chance to those who work at the local level real strength of industry. Past inductees for local personality have included WJR Detroit's J.P. McCarthy, New York's terrific Don Imus, sportscaster Harry Carey, and now to induct this year's winner into the Local Personality Award, we call on one of the most unusual guys in broadcasting. Unusual and sick. This man is Tom Joyner. He's the 4-time Billboard Magazine Award winner as the best urban contemporary air personality, and he is called the Fly Jock because he did a morning show at KKDA-FM in Dallas and an afternoon show at WGCI-FM in Chicago. This man depended on Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, and he depended on O'Hare to make a living, and he's been out of work severely for a long time. Next year, we're going to hear, he's earned, by the way, he has the record for frequent flyer miles, topping Henry Kissinger by 250,000. We'll hear him next year on his own show on the ABC Radio Network, a national morning show. Ladies and gentlemen, to induct our next inductee, Tom Joyner, right here.
Okay, what city are we in, huh? Don't fool me, where are we, huh? Chicago, Dallas, where am I? Where are my bags? The local or regional personality award is presented to a broadcaster who has made at least a 10-year contribution to the radio industry and has distinguished himself at the local level. This year's recipient actually stood in this spot last year presenting this very award. Tonight, he makes an encore appearance, this time as a brand new member of the Radio Hall of Fame. Wally Phillips was Chicago's premier morning man for 21 consecutive years. More than 1 million listeners tuned into his show daily, making him not only #1 in Chicago, but in the entire United States. You agree with that? That deserves a round of applause. Listeners laughed with Wally's quick wit and clever, mischievous use of the telephone. Chicago also turned to Wally in times of disaster and despair. With listener support, Wally Phillips' Neediest Kids Fund has raised more than $20 million. Most people from Chicago will tell you they grew up with Wally Phillips, and so did radio.
Radio is people, a reflection of life, good and bad, comedy and tragedy. Here's a tragedy. A young man kills his girlfriend, takes a TV crew hostage at WCPO TV in Cincinnati, Ohio, and kills himself after he spends his last hour in conversation with me one morning. Here are his last 50 seconds. What if I came down and talked to you?
They don't want me to talk. Somehow they're going to do away with me.
I promise you.
They don't want to hear this.
I don't care what they want to hear. I want you to know that I would promise you I would come down there, interview you, and broadcast this message to all the millions of people in the Midwest if you let me.
Where are you going to interview me at?
Right there, but I can't do it if you're not there. If you would let me call them and get this thing over with this morning.
I'm not coming out of here.
Well, can I come down there or
You can come down here and come in.
Can I talk to the police?
Are you sincere?
Obviously. How can I prove it to you? You tell me.
I am not coming out of here.
Well, supposing they promised you that if you came out there would be no harm done to you.
There's harm done already. They are going to waste me, man.
No, they're not.
I killed my girlfriend, man. They gave me this weird drug that I just...
All right.
If you're sincere, when I'm gone, do something for the people. My voice will be dead. Let your voice carry on.
Life is funny, too. Here is a comedy. The question is, the listener wanted to know, would a person standing on a busy intersection, the world's busiest, like State and Madison Street in Chicago, pick up and answer a public telephone if it were ringing? The answer is yes.
Hello? Honey Bun? No. Who?
This is Sweetie Pie. There's an ad in the personal column to call you at the old number.
What number are you calling?
Well, I'm calling our number. It's in the personals. Said call you at this number again. Who's this?
This is a telephone on the corner of State and Madison.
Who are you? This is our number.
I just passed by here. I'm on my way to work, and I heard this thing ringing, so I thought I'd see what...
There's something wrong. This is our number. It's in the column today, Honey Bun. It says call you at the old number.
No, there's no Honey Bun here. There are a lot of people around here. There might be a Honey Bun here,
Would you ask, please? It's very important.
Well, there are a lot of people here getting on a bus, but outside of that, there's nobody
Well, would you please ask if Honey Bun is there? It's vital.
Honey Bun? Are you a Honey Bun? Anybody Honey Bun around here? Well, nobody seems to answer. I guess there's no Honey Bun here.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Bye.
That's all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great Wally Phillips.
Thank you. This is a particularly proud moment for me, especially because I have a vivid remembrance of the world's greatest broadcaster, Paul Harvey, saying to me, "I don't think radio is for you. You ought to get in some other job." Unfortunately, it's vivid because that was 10 minutes ago that he told me that. I'm kidding. He knows it because Marconi may have invented this thing, but Paul Harvey showed him what to do with it. They gave me about 50 seconds to speak, so I kind of feel like Madonna in the Chicago Bears locker room. I don't know where to start. Maybe she wouldn't want to after today, but to the Tribune Company, to Stan Cook and John Madigan, Charles Brumback, especially Jim Dowdle, president of Tribune Entertainment, thank you for the opportunity. To Wayne Vriesman and Dan Fabian, my 30-year support system, who never thanked me for the ulcers I gave them, by the way. Marilyn Miller, a producer in KDOM, irreplaceable secretary, of course, and every engineer, every sports person, every salesman, any person with a radio station. How could I do it without him? To Ward Quall, a broadcasting genius, and to Bruce Dumont and his staff for creating this and giving life and perpetuity to this nice event. But most of all, to the people listening to the radio tonight, because we know where you're coming from, and we're here because of you, and I'm grateful. Essie and Irv Kupstanet and all my friends I don't have time to thank, but I'm grateful to them too. And since the last shall be first, my wife Barbara, who made Webster and his bunch rewrite the word courage and what it meant. Thank you. To my daughters, Jennifer and Holly, and my son, Todd, you make my bad times bearable, my good times glorious, and my whole life worthwhile. And if August Bush will forgive a little petty thievery, this one's for you. Thank you very much.
You're listening to the 1993 Radio Hall of Fame Awards, live from Chicago. Rush Limbaugh and Sally Jesse Raphael will be with us shortly, and we'll also tell you how you can become a part of next year's selection process. Stay tuned.
Not long ago, our world was changed forever by Voices from the Skies.
The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
Brought to you through the wonder of radio. And you can still hear them at the Radio Hall of Fame. Preserving the history of excellence in radio and keeping quality radio growing. Please become a member of the Radio Hall of Fame and help preserve radio's history and future. Members vote to recognize excellence in contemporary radio in the Radio Hall of Fame Awards. And who knows? Your vote could help your favorite radio personality into the Radio Hall of Fame. This is J.P. McCarthy asking you to please become a member by calling 1-800-860-9559. 1-800-860-9559. Don't let the voices be lost forever.
My name's Casey Kasem.
Just when the air begins to turn frosty and darkness comes a little sooner every evening, the holiday season arrives in a city called Chicago. This time of year, the pace isn't set so much by the rushing of feet into gleaming office towers, but by the sound of horses walking on a street that, if we're lucky, has a fresh coat of glistening snow. It's a time when children sit on shoulders trying to get a glimpse of the window displays on State Street. Couples get reacquainted as they stroll past the stores lining Michigan Avenue, lights glowing on the trees above. In Chicago, we embrace the change of seasons. The colder it gets, the warmer we all seem to feel. No wonder more than 10 million people choose to visit Chicago every winter. Chicago. It's easy to do.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, we're at the big Radio Hall of Fame banquet inducting 6 new members into this prestigious group this evening. The next gentleman is going to touch your heart, I know. By the way, I just had a weird thought. What if Howard Stern gets in next year? This will be held at the offices of Penthouse Magazine. That was just weird. Also weird if he expects to get in. Anyway, this next gentleman, what a place he's had in radio history. His first radio job was as Shandu the Magician. He's appeared on Guiding Light, Tom Mix, Road of Life, Bachelor's Children. He's worked at WMAQ, WBBM, WGN, and he's going to introduce our Pioneer Award winner. He went to California in 1946, appeared on the Lux Radio Theater, Joan Davis, Amos and Andy, and then in 1950 he took over for Hal Perry, and for the next 9 years was the star of The Great Gildersleeve. Ladies and gentlemen, Willard Waterman.
The Kraft Foods Company presents Willard Waterman as The Great Gildersleeve.
The Pioneer Award is presented to a broadcaster who has given at least 20 years of dedicated service to the radio industry, has been a leader in developing or improving quality radio programming. That description characterizes this year's recipient, Norman Corwin. Norman Corwin is a writer, director, producer for CBS Radio. Among his most memorable productions were the historic 1941 documentary hailing the Bill of Rights, We Hold These Truths, and the 1945 VE Day Patriotic Special on a Note of Triumph. Norman Corwin is truly a living legend, as Charles Kuralt of CBS Radio reports.
Did you hear about the plot to overthrow Christmas?
The Plot to Overthrow Christmas was Norman Corwin's first original script. He wrote it and directed it and produced it for CBS in 1938. That program made his national reputation. After that, he was given radio's greatest gift, absolute freedom to do what he wanted. In return, Norman Corwin gave radio his greatest gift, outstanding programs, unequaled programs. On December 7th, 1941, Orson Welles spoke Norman Corwin's words on Between Americans.
Today, particularly, people are thinking about their country pretty hard. Some of them for the first time in their lives. People are wondering where we're headed. Men are being called on to get ready to defend America.
At the end of the war in Europe, on VE Day, Norman Corwin's On a Note of Triumph was a victory exclamation.
So they've given up. They're finally done in, and the rat is dead in an alley back of the Wilhelmstrasse. Take a bow, GI. Seems like 3 men have done it again.
On the 14th of August, 1945, at the victorious conclusion of World War II, Orson Welles read the nation Norman Corwin's message of joy and sadness.
Congratulations for being alive and listening on this night. Millions didn't make it. Fire a cannon to their everlasting memory. God and uranium were on our side.
Words by Norman Corwin, writer, producer, director, creator of gold during the golden age of radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Radio Hall of Fame is proud to induct Mr. Norman Corwin.
Accepting for Norman Corwin is Pulitzer Prize-winning author and broadcaster Studs Terkel.
Just a brief further word about the singularly gifted man Corwin. Imagine a night such as this, 48 years ago, May 8th, 1945, VE Day, democracy victorious over fascism. You listen for the hour to a show called On a Note of Triumph, written, conceived, directed by Norman Corwin, and you are exalted because he was celebrating not just the world as it was, but what it could be. And so, Norman, before reading your letter of acceptance, thank you very much for showing the art of radio as it could be, exalting the human spirit rather than diminishing it and trivializing it. And so your letter of acceptance. I am inconsolably sorry to send my thanks to those gathering in Chicago, but Studs Terkel will take care of it, hopefully. And he doesn't have the flu. Studs and I and many of you lived and worked inside the golden age of radio. We're unaware it was golden. We never suspected that the great networks and their specialties would vanish. For radio was unique in many ways. It was the first theater built for unseen and unseeing audiences, the first to command vast distances, the first to affect masses about mass effects. I live in a region where for sport, a single hand with a lit match can destroy a whole countryside, kill people, reduce to rubble thousands of homes, and shatter lives. But it's another symbol of the reckless cruelty that not only damns the consequences, but enjoys them. The fashions of outrageousness are many. Murderous polarizations at home and abroad, children gunned down on streets, political zealots who blow up plane loads of innocents, all those in a seemingly endless pageant of malice toward all and charity for none. What does this do with radio? Much. For radio can still be, as in the past, a moral force. It has the capacity to inform, to arouse and inspire, to exalt, to celebrate, to contribute to the depleted accounts of amity and peace. There do exist scattered islands of quality in radio, but they must be joined to the mainland. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of the Radio Hall of Fame, let's not forget that the very ether that transports our speech and music is not an invention, but a gift of the cosmos, a shard of creation itself. With these credentials, plus the needs of a sick world, there's more reason than ever to use the medium conscionably. Again, I thank you.
Before we went on the air, a great broadcaster was inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight, Rick Sklar. I had the honor of knowing Rick very well. His tragic death, needless death. He was a legendary programming genius at WABC New York and at ABC Radio, brought together some of the greatest personality lineups radio has ever seen at one station at one time, acknowledged as one of the great promoters in the history of the radio business. Rick Sklar is now in the Hall of Fame. And we are also inviting you across the country to become a member of this museum. It's simple. You call 1-800-860-9559. People are standing by now. There are only 2 broadcast museums in the United States. On Michigan Avenue here in Chicago, in the Landmark Cultural Center, Charlie McCarthy is featured in Jack Benny's vault and Fibber McGee's closet. Lynn Angel Harvey's Radio Center, where broadcasters from around the country can originate programs. Archives of over 50,000 radio shows. This is the country's only Radio Hall of Fame, supported by people who love radio. National membership is $30, and next year, if you join, you could be part of the selection process to vote in those who go in 1994. For details and other information, there's no obligation, call 1-800-860-9559. 1-800-860-9559.
You're listening to the 1993 Radio Hall of Fame Awards. Next, Sally Jesse Raphael and Rush Limbaugh, live from Chicago.
Not long ago, our world was changed forever by Voices from the Skies.
War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
Brought to you through the wonder of radio. And you can still hear them at the Radio Hall of Fame, preserving a history of excellence and keeping quality radio growing.
Groucho Marx.
Become a member of the Radio Hall of Fame and help preserve radio's past and future.
The Jack Benny Program.
My name's Casey Kasem. Members also vote in the Radio Hall of Fame Awards. And who knows?
The Shadow knows.
Your vote could help put your favorite personality into the Radio Hall of Fame. This is Bruce Dumont asking you to become a member by calling 1-800-860-9559. That's 1-800-860-9559. Don't let the voices be lost forever.
Well, this Mr. Imus in New York.
Just when the air begins to turn frosty and darkness comes a little sooner every evening, the holiday season arrives in a city called Chicago. This time of year, the pace isn't set so much by the rushing of feet into gleaming office towers, but by the sound of horses walking on a street that, if we're lucky, has a fresh coat of glistening snow. It's a time when children sit on shoulders trying to get a glimpse of the window displays on State Street. Couples get reacquainted as they stroll past the stores lining Michigan Avenue, lights glowing on the trees above. In Chicago, we embrace the change of seasons. The colder it gets, the warmer we all seem to feel. No wonder more than 10 million people choose to visit Chicago every winter. Chicago. It's easy to do.
We're back. We're spinning along. We're running a little ahead of time, but we'll make it up. We thank you all very much for joining us. To present the award to the Syndicated Personality of the Year, we call on a lady who's become one of the legends in the business. Worked with her years ago in Miami. We both worked at WIOD. We're on back to back. She's gone on to phenomenal success. Her show now airs in almost 200 markets in the United States and internationally. She's been 10 years with multimedia. She is one terrific lady. It's sweeps week, so she has to be back tomorrow for whatever the problem of the day is. But for tonight, here she is, the lovely Sally Jesse Raphael, right here.
I promised Larry I would make up the minute. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here at this function of the Young Republicans Club of Greater Chicago. After 37 years in radio with 25 stations, this is a heck of a testosterone evening. But I'll really do what I can to add that little bit of femininity. Considering who the recipient is, he calls women like me feminazis. So I will read this as written for me. Please note it does not express my opinions. You got to admit, putting Rush Limbaugh, Sally Jesse Raphael, and Larry King on a stage means that radio makes strange bedfellows. I have the pleasure of introducing radio's most outspoken talker and winner in this year's Syndicated Personality category. The Radio Hall of Fame bestows that award to an active broadcaster who has made significant contributions to the industry. Larry King is a past winner in this category. Tonight, the 1993 Radio Hall of Fame welcomes Rush Limbaugh. 25 seconds more of copy. Give me a moment. Rush Limbaugh hosts the highest-rated radio talk show in America. It is carried by more than 600 stations and is listened to by more than 19 million people each week. Like many in radio, Rush worked in the vineyards in Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Sacramento, and then to WABC in New York. His hard-hitting conservative views have shaken up the radio world since he entered the national arena in 1988. His daily commentaries anger many, but also bring millions to their feet cheering. As a radio and TV talk host and also a best-selling author, Rush Limbaugh is talked about in boardrooms, bar rooms, and in homes from coast to coast, including a big white home at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C.
But I need to remind you one more time with tapes rolling, a program for the archives, the Clinton Hustle. This is how it is done. First off, ladies and gentlemen, we have the establishment of the crisis. Days and days of hand-wringing on TV. Absurd figures, numbers that are never explained nor backed up to exaggerate the crisis and to incite fear. Then the emotional soap opera anecdotes, government by sob story, the whining of America to touch your heart. Then the trial balloons are floated, wacky leaks about how this crisis will be solved. It's free, it's expensive, it's fair. Nobody knows what's really going to happen because they're nothing but mindless leaks designed to incite even more fear. And then next, finding a culprit, finding a villain, finding the enemy, lobbyists, the rich, Catholics, pharmaceuticals industries, conservatives, white people, whatever it takes, find the villain. Then there's the setup. A highly promoted speech. The president will address the nation, a joint session of Congress. This speech will change America forever. This speech will make or break the presidency. It is so important. Then the sting. A long speech, a really long speech that promises to end the crisis. No specifics as to cost, no details about how it will be solved. Only a select few will pay anyway. The middle class will benefit. Only the rich who've gotten away with murder in the past will be forced to pay up. It's fair.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Radio Hall of Fame is proud to induct Mr. Rush Limbaugh.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm truly humbled, ladies and gentlemen. I actually never thought this would happen, and I am truly gratified to all of those responsible for it, and the list is long. I'd like to start with how this radio program actually started. 5 years ago, I was brought to New York by Ed McLaughlin, to whom I probably owe everything as far as this national career of mine has gone. And we wanted to try something that everybody in the business said wouldn't work. We were going to syndicate a national program in the daytime without local issues, without local phone numbers, and so forth, and nobody in the business thought it would work. And today, if I might say, most radio stations looking to succeed are looking to syndicated programming for their salvation. And Ed McLaughlin is the man responsible for this, and I would like to tip my hat to him tonight for the courage to take on that which nobody thought could be done. Ed, stand up. I would also like to thank the American people. I have often been asked to go speak to associations, broadcast associations, and I've always turned down the request because I don't know what I would say to them. I say what I say to the American people, and any chance I have a chance to speak to them, I do. And I am so grateful and so honored for the overwhelming change in my life that they have brought. Regardless what I mean to them, I am certain that I will never mean as much to them as they mean to me. Would also like to thank my family. My mother is here. My brother and his wife are also here tonight, as well as members of our broadcast company. You know who else I would also like to thank too? I'm sure I'm going to leave some people out here, and I don't intend to, but So many standards of excellence have been set by previous inductees, including tonight's, that all I can hope to do is try to approximate them as I go through my career, and if I am one day judged to have done that, then I will consider it to have been worth it and a success. When I moved to New York, I didn't plan on becoming a political spokesman. In fact, politics was the last thing I factored in determining whether or not I would be a success. I was coming to be on radio, a media guy, and I love radio. I do television too, but that microphone is right here and that camera is 20 feet away. And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. TV is the medium of our time, there's no question, but I am proud to be part of the marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country. 4 years ago, when people went to vote, people said, my gosh, there aren't enough people voting. There's apathy. The people don't care. Today, the Congress of the United States is attempting to shut talk radio up because people care too much. And I am proud to be a part of that. I want to say one more thing very quickly. When I came to New York, there was one man, I said, here's the standard. That's what I'm up against. Here's who I consider my competition to be. If Larry King had not shown that syndicated talk programming would work, I wouldn't have had the chance. I thank Larry King as well. I thank all of you. Thank you so much for allowing me to run long. Thank you.
Rush Limbaugh. Thank you. That was very kind of Rush to say that. We are friends. We are competitors, of course, in a sense, but we're friends too, because we both love this business. There's a new organization being formed, in fact. It's called Feminists, the Homeless and Blacks for Limbaugh. And they're meeting in a phone booth in Wichita. Rush and I were talking before the show, and I said to him, God, it's cold. He said, call me Rush. Think about it. I also want to salute Rush Limbaugh on going in based on a philosophy for living so many Americans agree with, that money is not everything. Health is 3%. Don.
We're live from Chicago. Coming up, the real Little Orphan Annie, the Members' Choice Award, and more details on how you can become a member of the Radio Hall of Fame. Get a pencil and paper. We'll be right back.
Long ago, our world was shaped by voices from the skies.
The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
And you can still hear them at the Radio Hall of Fame, preserving the history of radio and keeping it growing. Become a member and vote in the next Radio Hall of Fame Awards to honor excellence in contemporary radio. Find out more by calling 1-800-860-9559. Don't let the voices be lost forever.
My name's Casey Case.
Just when the air begins to turn frosty and darkness comes a little sooner every evening, the holiday season arrives in a city called Chicago. This time of year, the pace isn't set so much by the rushing of feet into gleaming office towers, but by the sound of horses walking on a street that, if we're lucky, has a fresh coat of glistening snow. It's a time when children sit on shoulders trying to get a glimpse of the window displays on State Street. Couples get reacquainted as they stroll past the stores lining Michigan Avenue, lights glowing on the trees above. In Chicago, we embrace the change of seasons. The colder it gets, the warmer we all seem to feel. No wonder more than 10 million people choose to visit Chicago every winter. Chicago. It's easy to do.
We're back. What a night. Our final inductee is the Radio Hall of Fame's mission to recognize radio's rich history. We call it our Members' Choice. To present the inductee, what a lady. From 1930 to 1940, she was Little Orphan Annie. The show originated in Chicago, later played Patsy on Captain Midnight. Shirley Bell Cole, right here.
Thank you so much. This is the first year for the Members' Choice Award. Members of the Radio Hall of Fame were sent a confidential ballot to cast their vote for a living on-air personality or current program, either local, regional, or national. The 1993 winner is Chuck Shaden, a noted historian and Chicago broadcaster. Chuck Shaden is producer and host of Those Were the Days, which had its beginning on WLTD AM in Evanston and continues to be a popular Saturday afternoon stroll down memory lane on Chicago's WNIB-FM. Every night, Chuck can be heard throughout the Midwest on old-time radio classics, broadcast from WBBM Radio. To those of us who were part of this industry in its infancy, let me say how much we all appreciate the dedication that Chuck Shaden has shown to radio's golden age. His personal collection of over 50,000 hours of classical radio programming has been donated to the Museum of Broadcast Communications and is available for everyone to enjoy.
Don't touch that dial. It's midnight, and this is Chuck Shaden inviting you to stay tuned for an hour's worth of great entertainment on old-time radio classics from WBBM in Chicago.
For 23 years, the last 8 on WBBM News Radio 78, Chuck Shaden has brought the best of the golden days of radio back to the air.
Okay, we're going back to 1944 now for an exciting Western adventure. Those thrilling days of yesteryear. That's right, it's the Lone Ranger.
Chuck began collecting radio shows because he liked them, and now has a collection of over 50,000 titles. The core collection for Chicago's Museum of Broadcast Communications.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows.
I know you want to hear Fibber McGee and Molly.
The Johnson Wax Program with Fibber McGee and Molly.
Let's go back to 1947. Jack Benny is doing some Christmas shopping. Elliot Lewis is a clerk in the perfume department. Let's listen to this clip from a 1947 Jack Benny show.
Jack, I've been looking for you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. I stopped to talk to Don Wilson. Oh, say, Mary, don't let me forget to buy something for Fred Allen.
Fred Allen?
Yeah, I don't know what to get him. He has nothing.
And that's about it for now, too. The old clock on the wall says we have to go. We'll be back again tomorrow at midnight with some more great old-time radio classics here on WBBM Chicago. Tomorrow, we'll tune into famous jury trials, and we'll have some fun with Vic and Sade. Until then, this is Chuck Shaden. We're a little late, folks, so good night, and thanks for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Radio Hall of Fame is proud to induct Mr. Chuck Shaden.
Wow. To be up here on the same stage with Little Orphan Annie and the Great Gildersleeve, something special. I am overwhelmed and overjoyed at this honor. Years ago, when I walked into that 1,000-watt daytimer in Evanston, all I hoped to do was to share my love of the radio programs I grew up with. For the past 23 years, I've been lucky enough to broadcast thousands of the great old shows and my interviews with hundreds of radio performers. And I've had the opportunity to help build a vault for Jack Benny and a closet for Fibber McGee. All these years paying tribute to the great talents of the golden age of radio. And tonight, as I see my name listed alongside the real talent in this Radio Hall of Fame, I can say only that this is an honor I scarcely deserve, but will accept on behalf of the fans of the great radio days, the people out there in Radio Land who more than anyone else are responsible for extending the life of these good old shows, because they tuned in and they listened. My appreciation also to the many radio stations along the way who have provided a home for our broadcast, including WBBM for 8 great years at night, and especially to WNIB, where we've held forth on Saturday afternoons for the past 18 years. Thanks to them, thanks to my family, and thanks to the members of the Radio Hall of Fame for this monumental vote of confidence and encouragement. Stay tuned and don't touch that dial. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Boy, what a fast hour. Now, for membership information, please call 1-800 now if you're listening at home, 1-800-860-9559. They'll give you information. There's no obligation. It's $30 to join, and you can vote in next year's. You'll get all our materials. And if you come to Chicago, get a chance to visit this wonderful hall, which added tonight Wally Phillips, Rush Limbaugh, Norm Corwin, Chuck Shaden, and the late Rick Sklar into its body. On behalf of all the presenters and Susan Stamberg and Tom Joyner and Willard Waterman, Studs Terkel, Sally Jesse, and Shirley Bell Cole, thanks very much for joining us. Again, the number 1-800-860-9559. I'm Larry King from the Radio Hall of Fame in Chicago. What about a hand for the announcer's announcer, Don Pardo? Don Pardo!
Has been the 1993 Radio Hall of Fame Awards, starring Larry King. The executive producers for tonight's broadcast were Joyce Richmond and Brad Saul. Associate producer David Sherman. Assistant producers were Howard Kaplan, Susan Kaplan, and Rich Starr. Tonight's show was directed by Scott Yankus and engineered by Brian Tonneson. Our stage director was Susan Andrini. Additional production help was provided by Steve Ryan, Keith Dixon, Art Volo, Katie Rowan, and Sam Yeomans. The 1993 Radio Hall of Fame Awards program has been brought to you by the Illinois Bureau of Tourism. Chicago, it's so easy to do. Guests of the Radio Hall of Fame, stay at the Hyatt Regency Chicago and fly American Airlines, the official hotel and airline of the Radio Hall of Fame. Our musical director was Stanley Paul. The Radio Hall of Fame Awards are a Museum of Broadcast Communications production, Bruce Dumont President, and were produced in association with the Westwood One Radio Network. Remember, you can join the Radio Hall of Fame. Call 1-800-860-9559 for details. And now, for Larry King, our inductees and presenters, I'm Don Pardo, thanking you for listening and saying good night from Chicago.